It's not every day you get to sit and talk basketball with an absolute coaching legend, but that's what Coach Bill Robinson got to do last week at Carolina basketball camp. He got Coach Roy Williams' thoughts on this year's team. You want to hear them? Because I'm about to.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, July 4th, 2024. Happy Independence Day to all of you out there. Hope you have a great day celebrating. It's an honor for Coach Rob and I to be here with you today. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. Again, as I alluded to, I'm your host, Isaac Shade. This is our guy beside me, Coach Bill Robinson, the head coach of the Milligan University men's basketball team, the Buffaloes, a 2-decade veteran of the Carolina basketball camp, and he's joining us while he's on vacation. Coach, thanks so much for making the time, even when you're out with your family. We want to thank you for making us your first listen or watch, and remind us that you're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. Special shout out to all you everydayers out there and all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Man, a super fun show today. We're going to be had some good mailbag questions about defense, so we're going to pose those to Coach Rob. He's got a few more thoughts about Montross camp from last week, and we're going to just, since it's July 4th, we thought we'd share a few fun family memories and traditions that we like to do. But before we get to all of that, the place we got to go first is this. During last week's alumni scrimmage game during camp, Coach Rob, essentially the whole second half of that, just got to go sit down on the court right beside Coach Roy Williams and Miss Wanda sitting right there. They had chairs. He's on the floor. I'm going to pull up a picture of it in a second. But it's just incredible that Coach Rob gets to have that kind of access and gets to talk to Coach Williams. And obviously they're wanting to get to talk about Coach Rob's book. But in the process, because this game's going on, Coach Rob got to get Coach Williams' thoughts on this year's team, got to talk to him about RJ Davis's recruiting, and we're going to get all those inside thoughts today. So, Coach Rob, thank you so much for bringing all those. As I prepare to ask you this, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the picture of you guys sitting there on the court together. For those watching on YouTube, you can see that with Coach Rob on the floor right by Coach Williams and Miss Wanda. So, Coach Rob, first, would you mind sharing with us Coach Williams' insights ahead of this season about this upcoming team?
Yeah, I just want to talk about how it happened. First of all, we've been trying to get. I guess I talked to him 6 years about the idea for the book, and then season happens, and it took a while for us to actually get really doing interviews. I think it's appropriate that my last 2 interviews for the book are Hubert and Coach Williams. Hubert obviously being the week before, but Coach Williams is busier now than he's ever been. And when he was busy before, he was busy in Chapel Hill. Now he's busy all over the world. They just got back from a long trip. He's getting ready to go on another trip. So time to be able to sit down and talk to him is just very valuable. So basically, I got a text message during the first half says, Coach just wants you to go down and sit next to him. Or just go down and see him. So I walked down the stairs and turned, and I went to shake his hand. I said, hey, Coach. He said, Billy, sit down, and just pointed to the floor. So I sat down. And that's where I sat for the whole second half. We did talk about the team. I just wanted to get a little conversation started. So I didn't want to go straight to the book and ask him what he thought about this team. He thinks the team's really talented. He thinks they're going to do really well. All of us, obviously, are very concerned about the post and how is that going to work out? How are we going to defend it? Who's going to be able to score? They're back to the post. He said Jae'lyn Washington's the key. And I think we all feel the same way. I did ask him just about recruiting RJ and if he really could see that he was going to be that good. Did you expect him to be that good? And his words said, I just knew he was going to be special. And that's really cool just to be able to have somebody. Obviously, I think he's played better than any of us could ever imagined it. But Coach saw something in him, just small little guard, but he knew he was special. And he's definitely been special. We expect another special year this coming year. But we went through kind of each player and just kind of just to get those conversations before I could, hey, Coach, here's what the book's going to look like. Here's the cover. And he immediately showed it to Wanda, and he giggled and laughed. And he said he really liked that. And then he hit me with the special words that I will always remember. I'd given him kind of some excerpts of the book at the Final Four in 2022. I took some copies, knowing that Carolina people were going to be there, obviously in New Orleans, and I staked out his hotel and just kind of sat in the lobby waiting for him to come in, and ran into him, got a picture taken, gave him the copies, and then he was gone. So I never really knew if he read it or not, or he just tossed it in the garbage. I really didn't know. And he looked at me and he said, "Billy, I read every word and I loved it, but it's my life, and not sure if there's a real market out there for it. And I don't care if there's a market for it. I felt like this was something I needed to do. I never wanted to be a writer. I didn't want to. Obviously, I mean, I had a friend of mine wrote a book, said it was the worst experience of his life, and I said, "Yeah, I know. I'll never write a book." And but here I am trying to finish this thing up, and hopefully by the end of July I'll get it done, and I get off my shoulders a little bit. But the fact that he liked the cover and that he and Wanda enjoyed it, and then we're this close to it, I think it's really exciting for me.
And those, as you said, special words for him to say, "Hey, I read every word and loved it." And so as you said, sometimes it just doesn't matter if the masses are going to come or not. If somebody that integral to it, if it's meaningful to them, that often is meaning enough. So Coach, I'm so proud of you for just continuing to work on this thing and seeing it through, and love that you've been able to really interact very intentionally and specifically with both Coach Davis and Coach Williams these past couple of weeks. And I know that's very meaningful for you. Going back to his thoughts on this team, it seems to be no shock to hear that he, like the rest of us, although that is the architect of all these great teams in the earlier 2000s that had all these bigs that were so good, that he's a little concerned about it. And but it's just good to hear him identify what we're all seeing, that Jae'lyn Washington is kind of the linchpin of this thing. And so we're going to have to wait to see. You mentioned that you guys kind of went through a bunch of the different players. Were there any other little tidbits from that part of the conversation that stood out?
He just thinks the guards are incredible, that the depth at the guard position too. He couldn't get over that. The Drake Powell, we talked a little bit about that, just the versatility that he brings, all the little things he brings. Coach thinks that he's gonna be somebody who's going to help you win games. Don't know what that means. It could be a lot of minutes, could be a little minutes, but I think when he's on the floor, he's going to help you play winning basketball. We talked about that a little bit too. I used to take an agenda question every year to camp, and I knew I'd get a 30-second conversation with him when you go around, shake hands. And one of the things we talked about one year is, do you recruit to specific spots, or do you just recruit talent? And he hesitated a second. He said, you always try to get the best talent, and then you'll figure it out. And I think that's what Hubert's really got to do this year. He's got the best talent. Along the way, they're going to figure it out. Yeah. What that means, what that rotation looks like, who's going to get the major minutes, or who's going to get to play the minutes down the stretch, which is really more important than who starts. But I do think they'll figure it out. They got a great staff, and I'm excited to see how they attack this season.
Yeah, and to your point, we might not even see that in November or even December. It might be January, early February before we really truly know what that rotation fully looks like. And so, man, that's going to be interesting. But it's just good to know he feels good about the talent. He's somebody that knows a thing or two about it, and that's encouraging. Coach, something else you had mentioned is, while you were sitting there, you kept getting tapped on the shoulder by people wanting to catch you. Just share some of that with us, if you would.
Yeah, during an alumni game, there's a lot of alums that don't play. They're there, but they don't necessarily play, whether they're older or whatever. They don't want to play. Hurt, like Ed Davis was. But got tapped on the shoulder, turned around, and Desmond Hubert standing there. Desmond and I used to do the defensive station at Montrose camp, so we knew each other. He's from Jersey, too, so you got to love that, as I sit here in New Jersey right now. Gave him a hug. He had one of his kids with him, and then Rayshon Terry was there. I gave Rayshon Terry a hug. Oh, he's standing with Deion Thompson, and gave Deion a big hug. Deion's one of my favorite of all time. Oh, and then Mike Copeland came in, and Mike and my son, that was my son's favorite player, because when he was 10, he rebounded for Mike one night at open gym when he was in camp. So it was really cool to see those four guys. And there's another one. And here are my favorite players, and they're all sitting right there behind me. I didn't even know, because I was so nervous about sitting with Coach Williams. But I made sure I went back and sat down, because I still had some more questions to talk with Coach at that time. But it's just a really cool event. And I hope we had some listeners, a couple listeners talk about wanting to get there to see that game. Obviously not publicized, but what a fantastic way for Tar Heel fans to see the team and some alumni play on a Tuesday afternoon in the Smith Center.
Man, that's great. Coach, one last question from conversations. You had mentioned that you got to spend some extra time with Danny Green. I was curious if there were any kind of fun anecdotes from that or any takeaways from that conversation.
I lost a bet because Danny always shakes hands with everybody when he walks in the gym. He'll go down. It doesn't matter who it is, but he'll go through the whole crowd. And there was 50 guys there the second night, 50 coaches from camp because it was a big night. Everybody was anticipating to see Cole Anthony play and a couple other guys play. And Danny came in late. And when he came in, I looked at one of my assistants and said, "I bet you lunch." He says hi to everybody on the way through. And he didn't talk to a soul. Went right out to the court. And, well, then the next night he wasn't playing, and of course he sat with us and talked with us the whole night. So Danny says he owes me one, and I'm gonna somehow figure out a way to make him pay up for that meal someday. But just hanging out with people, talking about life, we talking about how he's doing his rehab, and he looks like he's close. He shot the ball great. Just to be able to see him go, and he was working on his game. He was taking shots he wouldn't normally take just to work on. Can I make a shot with a hand in my face? Playing that game-like situation, and then he played really, really well. So it was good to see that. It's always great to see those guys come back.
Well, yeah, you definitely need to get that meal out of him because I think Danny can afford a meal or two to take care of you there, Coach.
Yeah, we're not going to go Chick-fil-A. We'll go someplace nicer than that. Yeah.
That is true. Hey, look, Milligan's budget's a little bit different than DG's, so that's okay. I love the Lord's holy chicken, and I'll never turn it down. Friends, we got a couple good mailbag questions about Carolina's defense this year, and might that be an area that the Tar Heels could really lean into? How might Coach Davis work with things or change things? We're going to ask that question to Coach Rob coming up here in just a second. Right after I tell you about game time, going to MLB games in the summer is one of my favorite all-time things. The game, the food, the people, the smells, everything that's part of the experience. I'm excited to make all new memories this summer at the ballpark. In fact, as you watch or listen to this on Thursday, I'm going to the Braves game tonight, and I'm stoked about that. But thankfully, with Game Time, I don't have to sweat high-priced last-minute tickets because they're an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. In fact, prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. How about the Home Run Derby coming up here in just a little bit? Monday, July 15th. It's going to be at Globe Life Field there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Tickets, you can get in the door for the Home Run Derby for $157. That's the cheapest ticket I found. But a really good deal that I found, lower level first baseline, $380 each. It's a steal. Go get in on this game. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms apply. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Coming up on tomorrow's show, we're going to close the week with a mailbag episode. But two of the mailbag questions that came in this week were specifically about defense, and I thought they would be perfect to go ahead and use today as we were talking to Coach Rob, just because he has great thoughts and is a great defensive mind, and so wanted to check in with him on this. So the first one comes from Vin Diesel from the Discord. A little Vin Diesel, Vin Allen Lubin combo. Love to see it. Well played. Vin Diesel says, what does Hubert need to change, Coach Hubert Davis need to change schematically on the defensive end to maximize this roster's potential on that end of the floor? Keyword there, this roster's, Coach, I think.
No, I think it's really exciting. This is a lineup that could do a lot of different things. I would like to see, and this is something we talked about some with Coach Frederick and some of the other coaches, a little bit maybe go back to where Coach Dean Smith used to do a lot of multiple defenses. So I would expect the pressure to be up, even if it's just full court guarding the basketball. You got 5 guards that all are going to play and play a lot. How do you do that? You play a pace where they ask to come out. You play up tempo, pressure the ball, pressure the wings, really try to fly around and get people uncomfortable. I think that's a big part of it. I do think the defensive, obviously the post is where most people are concerned. How do you defend the post? In the past, you just play behind and let Armando push somebody out and then just play one-on-one at the post. That's not going to happen. I would expect him to front the post more put pressure on the basketball, help from the weak side, maybe scram it a little bit where, you have somebody come across and as they try to throw it over the top, if you don't get it, to have that defender on the weak side take the post and the other guy rotate to the weak side. There's a lot of different things you can do. I would like to see even some zone. Coach Williams, of course, did that in the 2005 national championship game, went zone late against Illinois, threw them off a little bit. My philosophy is defense really comes down to keeping people off balance, get them out of rhythm. Don't let them run the same stuff. Don't let them get into a situation where they're running the flow of what they want to do. Always try to mix it up a little bit. So why do we do that? Because we didn't have a big that could defend, guard the rim and defend in the post. So we've always had to kind of muck it up a little bit. I don't expect them to do that, but I do expect them to do some things different than what we've seen in the Armando Bacot years.
Coach, for those who have never played basketball or who don't know what it's like to be a point guard, why does fronting the post, what sort of pressure does that put on guards as they're trying to make those entry passes over the top?
It gives them, in football terms, if you put pressure on the quarterback, makes it harder to make those passes. Same thing, if you have a wing, you want to pressure the basketball, make those tough passes. If you front it, now all of a sudden he's guarded. You put somebody on the backside, the skip pass is available, but then there's still ball in the perimeter. You're not getting the ball to the paint. Hubert has a drill, and part of it is the no paint game. We picked that up last year. And you just don't want to get the ball to the paint, whether it's through the dribble, through the pass, or the cut, whatever. You don't want the ball to get to the paint. So you front that guy in the post, make that harder for him to catch it. Essentially, you can double it without having to completely lose your man. And I do think they'll have a sequence where they can double too. We try to double from at least two areas that we're good at, one that we hope we're great at. But he can double from 3 or 4 different spots and really put pressure on that post, but just not let him just catch the ball, hold it, and be able to make decisions. Use that athleticism, use that speed and the quickness to really make those guys uncomfortable.
And that's an area where it seems like a Van Allen Lubin could thrive, because even though maybe he's not quite as tall, that wingspan that's where that comes in handy, and he can pick some of those passes. And so there's lots of opportunities there, Coach. I'm really excited to see what Coach Davis and Coach Fred and the whole staff comes up with. Now, the other question is kind of in a similar vein. It's about the defense, but how the defense could essentially keep Carolina in games. This comes from Steven on our Discord. Steven is essentially the genius behind the Discord that keeps the whole thing going. Steven, you're the man. Says, are we going to see UNC basketball have its calling card be defense? Is Coach Hubert Davis going to focus on tone-setting lockdown defense and let the offense come as it is, which allows us to be in every game more often?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Discord too. We got a chance to meet with a couple guys during Montrose camp. Got to meet with Travis and Clay. Clay's the one who set it up. We got a chance to go out to eat and got a chance to exchange numbers and had a really good time just hanging out. So I love the Discord, and it's one of those things that's been really, really neat to be part of this community. But I do think it's going to be setting the tone, first possession. They're gonna come out and play and try to raise the level. And again, we talked about getting people uncomfortable. They want to play a pace that's just unique to them and really get after people. And I would expect to see that full court pressure, to see getting in the passing lanes, where we haven't done a whole lot of that. Last year they got in the gaps more, which is that pack line, Tony Bennett, boring, Virginia. I would say boring. I'm sorry. Defense. I would expect to see that kind of defense create offense, and I think that's what we're all looking for. We're looking to get in the passing lanes and see more of those easy transition baskets. Obviously, quick shots lead to more offensive rebounds. It leads to the pace of play that we're trying to play, and I really see the pace of our play. And again, if you're more talented than the other team, you want more possessions. And the more possessions we get, the better chance we have to score a lot of points. So defensively, I don't necessarily think our points will be less, because I think we'll play more possessions. But I think it's going to be a whole lot more fun to watch than even what we've seen the last couple of years.
Or Tony Bennett in Virginia. I think we can leave that there. All right, Coach. You mentioned, we talked last week on the show some about Montrose Camp. You said you had something else for Montrose Camp that you wanted to make sure to talk about today. And because it is July 4th, of course, we got to talk about some July 4th traditions and things that we love to do. We're going to get to that conversation to close the show in just a second. We're just about a week or a little more than a week removed from Carolina's summer camp and Montrose camp, wedged in between the two sessions of those. Coach worked all three of those things. Obviously, the first Montrose camp without Eric himself being there, as we talked about last week on the show, a heavy emotional time, but a great couple days of camp. And so, Coach, you had mentioned there was something else from that time that you wanted to share with us.
Yeah, part of it's just being around special people, and Carolina is just different. And what I mean is different to be able to have a camp where you're being coached by Elijah Davis or Cade Tyson or Lubin. I mean, you got all these guys, and they're the ones coaching, and their kids are getting at. So every time you're going from one station to another, you're stopping to take pictures because Seth Trimble's at your basket, and I think that's part of why it's such a popular thing because they get the one-on-one access with the players. We were getting ready to meet, and we have all the coaches come over to meet down in the tunnel where the guys come out. And I look to my left, and there are 4 7-footers standing next to me. Now, 4 7-foot or plus standing next to me. That doesn't happen anywhere else. I'm not tall. I'm 6 foot. In my world, I'm small, but I mean, it was just incredible. There's Tyler Zeller and Serge Zwicker and Kevin Salvadori. And you're sitting there going, these guys are just huge. And you're like, this isn't, and Matt Wenstrom, and you're sitting there, here they are. And there's all these, and then I look to my right and it's Dave Hanners, who of course was a longtime assistant with Coach Smith and then with Larry Brown. Yeah. And I'm sitting there going, this is just not normal. And that's what I love about Carolina. Carolina camp is just not normal.
And you expect the unexpected moments like that. And I think that's part of what's so neat about it. And I know, folks, I know not all of you, especially the younger part of the audience, isn't going to know all those names, but you just need to know it's part of the Carolina family, and that's all part of what makes it such a big deal. Man, I absolutely love that. So, Coach, it is July 4th. It is Independence Day. Hopefully, we're all watching a little Will Smith, Jeff Goldblum movie and getting the aliens destroyed and eating some watermelon. But outside of that, Coach, I always think it's fun when we're able to just share a little bit of our lives and personalities, just a little inside view for people that are checking in on the show. And so I was just curious if you had any July 4th traditions or memories that you could share.
Yeah, growing up here in Ocean City, New Jersey, which is where I'm at with my mom right now, they would shoot off the fireworks from the high school football field, which was a block from the beach and the boardwalk. And people would be walking down the boardwalk, and all of a sudden they would start the fireworks. And you look out, and there's hundreds of boats out in the ocean, and then they're just sitting, and the fireworks are right above your head, and everything just stops. So you got thousands of people walking on the boardwalk, and everything stops. The ride stops, everything just stops while the fireworks display goes on. It's one of the most incredible things. A couple years ago with the family, we sat on the beach, and it was a beautiful night. We got to watch the fireworks in Ocean City, but you could look north and see the ones in Atlantic City. You could look east and see the ones here in Upper Township. You could look south and you could see the ones in what we could sit and watch 4 different. Now you couldn't hear them, of course, but you could literally see 4 different fireworks at the same time. And then when I was in North Carolina, we lived in a place where the fireworks were just a half a mile from us, and everybody would come to our place, and we'd have a bonfire and do s'mores and watch the fireworks from our house. We didn't even have to leave, and that was probably the best ever, when we didn't even have to leave the house and have people come and hang out with us. So we were pretty spoiled, but we've always enjoyed celebrating the 4th of July with family and friends.
Man, that's super. Did you ever like get out on a boat or get out on the water to watch them?
I don't like being on the boat in the dark with a bunch of other boats. I've always liked to just I'll go out at night and fish, but I never like to go out and just because there's too much other stuff that goes on out there at that time that I'm just not interested in. So I always like to just kind of stay on firm ground when it's late at night and dark.
Honestly, I cannot blame you in any single way for that. Coach, what about food? One of the mailbag questions tomorrow that I'm going to answer is just like some favorite July 4th foods or drinks or other things. Is there anything, I know everybody has like their Thanksgiving foods they look forward to. At Independence Day, is there any food or drinks you look forward to?
Well, when I was here, it was always some kind of seafood. And we would go to somebody's house, and there would always be some kind of seafood because it is it's a resort town, but it's also an ocean town. The first time I ever tried Mako shark was at a 4th of July, party. I didn't like it. I'd rather just stay with flounder and with crabs, which is what I've been eating a lot here recently. But hot dogs and hamburgers, some chips, mac and cheese. It's pretty simple at our place. We don't try to get too complicated.
You know what I could go for? I'm a big mac and cheese fan. I'd like to get some of that crab and drop it into the mac and cheese. Have a little crab mac and cheese, get a little Old Bay seasoning on there. Coach, that seems like it might hit the spot.
We made grilled cheese with crab the other night. First time we Hawaiian rolls with a little bit of it was fantastic. We got to do that again, but it was just something we thought, hey, why not? We'll try this one time and see what happens. It was fantastic.
All right, I'm on a plane. I'll see you in a couple hours. That sounds phenomenal. All right, gang. Thanks so much for joining in with Coach Rob and me today. We got to get out of here because this room he's sitting in is like 8 million degrees and poor guy's sweating half to death. And we got to get him back to his family. So, Coach, really appreciative again of your time while you're on vacation. Folks, we're so thankful to you for tuning in to hang out with us, even on a holiday. Hopefully, as you're driving, you're listening, or maybe just sitting around and you're tired of your family, you're watching us on YouTube. And it means so much that you would take time out of your day to be part of our lives as well. If you're not subscribed to the show already and you want to be, man, it's really easy to just hit subscribe on YouTube or wherever you're listening, your favorite audio platform, just hit subscribe on there. If you'd like to email the show, maybe you got some mailbag questions, we'll do some more this summer, lockedontarheels@gmail.com. Or if you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, you can hop in there. We'd love to have you. The link's in the show notes and it's free. There's a mailbag channel in there. You can just drop mailbag questions in there as well. Man, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Cannot wait to be back with you tomorrow. But until then, peace.